Tappers are great, but there is one big problem they brought to Astroneer. Let me explain. Here's the current situation in Astroneer. Tappers give free power. Well, they actually give you organic, but everybody is already using them to get free power. And it's extremely easy to do. You can do it in the early game with just 2500 bytes. We'll talk about that in just a minute. It's so easy to create free power using the tappers that the other power items are basically useless here. Most of them, like the medium ones, were pretty useless even before, especially the medium solar panels, because you could get more done with the small ones. But now, since tappers have been introduced, they are really useless. You cannot use them for anything. It's so much easier to just get some tappers and turn the organic into power, either directly through small generators or indirectly through a smelter that turns them into carbon and then feed them into a medium generator. All of this is so much easier than spending a ton of resources to get so many solar panels and wind turbines and then also some batteries, because those are not constant power sources. Whereas the tappers can give you constant power. They are sort of like RTGs, but you can get them in the early game, and that completely breaks the power systems in Astroneer. And we've discussed about the power system, where you could get more done with the smaller wind and solar items than with the large and extra large ones. So those were already pretty broken, meaning you didn't really have a strong incentive to go for the larger items. They weren't that much better, but they required more expensive resources. So the only time you would use them is in your first playthrough, where you want to see how they look, or you want the next big thing, something like that. But after you've seen them once, you know you don't need them. We've discussed about this issue like a couple months ago, but since then the tappers came out and now everything's so much worse. The power system is completely broken. Just use the tappers. You don't need any other power item. They're all basically useless. Now let's talk about the requirements for an infinite power farm. The minimum bytes you need to create a tapper power farm are 2500 bytes. You can see how you can get this amount of bytes in like 20 minutes or half an hour after landing on Silva in your first playthrough. If you know what you're doing, you can get them even earlier. You can create an organic power farm or a carbon power farm using the tappers. For the organic one, you will need to unlock the tapper, which is only 1000 bytes and 1 aluminum. You can find laterite in the first cave layer on Silva once you land. So you've got your aluminum already. You will need a smelter to get the aluminum, but that's only 250 bytes. So that's extremely insignificant. And then you will use that organic for the small generator, which is already unlocked, and all you need to craft one is compound. So if you just gather like 10 or 20 compound, you can have 10 to 20 small generators that will just give you way more power than you need in the first hours of the game. And then if you want to automate this process so that you don't need to manually take the organic and feed it into the small generators, then you will need to unlock the auto arm, which is 1500 bytes, and it requires aluminum and graphite, both of which you will find easily on Silva. So if you've got tappers, auto arms and small generators, which you can get in the first half an hour of the game, then you've basically got infinite power, and you can scale this all you want. Once you've got them unlocked, you can just craft more of them. So once you have one power farm, you can build another one next to it to basically expand it, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one. And you can just do that until you get into the late game and you don't have any of the other items. You don't have any solar panels, any batteries, or any wind turbines. You will also find some of them randomly around the planet, so they will help you with your power, but you don't need to craft any. And then if you want to get a little bit more advanced, you can build a carbon power farm, for which you'll need the tapper and the auto arm, which you've already got. Of course, the smelters to smelt the carbon, but you already have that from your first organic power farm, because you needed it to smelt the aluminum to get the tappers. And then all you need extra is the medium generator, which is only 2000 bytes to unlock. Then you will need tungsten to craft it, so at least you will need to get off Silva for that. You'll need to go to Calidor, let's say, to get your tungsten. But there's a catch here as well. You will be able to find medium generators in the caves of Silva, and you will find them pretty easy. So by just running around the caves for 15 to 20 minutes, you will find at least a couple medium generators. You can bring them back to your base and you can establish this carbon power farm. Each medium generator gives you 9 units of power per second. So that's the equivalent of 9 small generators. And of course, you will use some of that power for the auto arms and for the smelter, but most of it will go straight to your other appliances in the base. You can go for the organic one, for the carbon one, or both, and whichever one you choose, it's pretty easy. So the requirements are pretty low. I would actually like to see them get a little bit higher, but that's exactly what we should talk about next. So here are some power balance and future updates. These are some of the things that I would like to see. So first of all, we know that the tappers broke an already shabby power balance in Astroneer, but how can it be re-established? Well, in a teaser image from a recent blog, we've seen a new power source, or what appears to be a new power source. Everybody seems to agree that this depicts a thermal power source that you would be able to place on the geysers, or whatever they are called, the things that shoot air, hot air up in the air, whatever, those things. You will be able to place something on them and collect power from the geothermal energy. And geothermal energy is used in real life too, so that makes sense. But how will those work? Will those be even more overpowered, so they overshadow the tappers and then you will only use those? Or will there be a balance? Like they will be as good as the tappers, but then you still don't have to use the wind or the solar. Or the one thing that I would actually love to see happen is an actual power system overhaul. Now, most of you might think, oh, they won't overhaul the whole power system in the game to balance it out and all of that. Why would they do such a thing? That would be too big of an update. But for those of you who weren't here a while ago, there was a time when everything radically changed. Do you remember when power nuggets were a thing in Astroneer? You used to find power on the ground as a resource and you could collect it and store it in your backpack or in your base and all of that. You used to be able to do the same with oxygen. Then we got a huge system overhaul, and since then power looks completely different. Everything's happening in a different way. A lot of items have been added since then that can use power, generate power, transfer power, all of that. So huge overhauls in this system have happened in the past. So why not another one in the future? And we already know there's gonna be a huge update by the end of 2024. And then we also know that a new power source will be added in one of the updates, maybe in that huge update, maybe before that, maybe after. But we know they are changing something in the power system, and we know there's gonna be a huge update. So could another big change happen this year? Well, in my opinion, why not? It's already happened before, so I think it will happen again this year. If you want to hear more about the tappers, then you can check my Verdant update playlist. I've got all kinds of videos about that update in there, all sorts of ways that you can use the tappers for all types of farms, not only power, but also a ton of other stuff. Or if you want to, you can check out this other video right here. Whichever one you choose, I'll see you there. Cheers, Astroneers!